Okay, I think the time now being 6:35, I think we can open the meeting. And thank you everyone for coming out tonight. This is I think it's the 15th, or it was supposed to be the penultimate meeting on this application for a 40B comprehensive permit for Ricketts Pond. And I think everyone is either here in the audience tonight, who should be here, or I have Johnny Knowles on Zoom if we need his input. So I think we're all here, and tonight I believe we want to discuss a few things. First, if there are any final comments regarding the materials from last week's hearing, we wanted to finish that up. Also, that there was an issue about the catch basin by Route 44 that we'll need a little bit of discussion about. And ultimately, then, I think what we said was pretty much after that, we would be going through waivers and trying to finalize our decision, our thought process on as many of those as possible. I believe that, covers essentially the agenda here for tonight. So, with that being said, now there had, now at the last meeting, we did hear testimony and took evidence from Mr. Scott Horsley and Mr. Peter Dillon. Now, if there's anything that anyone would like to say and follow up to those materials that we said on Thursday, I'd open the floor to anyone who wishes to speak. Otherwise, if not, then we would go on to the next subject matter. All right. Well, seeing we can dispose of that for the moment. There was, I believe, Mr. Anderson. You sent us some materials about a drainage pipe. Is there anything you'd like to say about that?
Yeah, I was just using the last bit of time to submit materials. I had a question about the pipe. Greg has partially answered much of it. Just to my eyes, it looked like by the location of the pipe, it looked like its intent was outflow. Greg says that the elevation suggests that it's inflow. I think the difference is it's a couple inches. It still seems relatively flat to me, but Greg seems to suggest that the direction of flow is towards the basin, not away from it.
Yes, and I did see the email that Greg sent about an hour and a half ago, I think it was now. So, all right. So I think that issue has been pretty much resolved at this point. But if anyone else has a different thought on it, now's the time to speak.
Is there any DOT confirmation of what the intent of that pipe is? Just, I imagine if they designed it, they know what its purpose is, or is it just the elevations are sufficient to show what its purpose is?
Does anyone have any thought on that question?
Yeah. Brad McKenzie for the record. As Mr. Opachinski indicated, the pipe has been blocked for years now. And there's no easement. When the parcel was conveyed from Mass DOT to RPBP LLC in 2019, there was no easement. And then half the basin happens to be within the right-of-way of Route 44, and the other half approximately happens to be on the subject property. So no easement, as we all know, no easement was.
All right, so if I understand your position correctly, that DOT should not be using that pipe as drainage for that catch basin.
The basin has been working properly for since 2019.
Okay.
And there are no issues. How much of Route 44 flows into that basin is irrelevant. Half of it's not even on our property, on the subject property. And again, there have been no drainage issues, and there are no overflows from that basin onto the property. And our proposed drainage design accounts for any watershed area that might have been contributing to that drainage basin. The drainage basin actually sits, as Peter confirmed, much higher than the rest of the property.
Correct.
So there's no, it's not capturing any watershed area from the project to, so it's really, it's a non-issue.
And the pipe, you say it's been blocked off with
Yes.
cement or concrete?
I've never seen a pipe. There was maybe a drainage, I saw evidence of maybe a grass like drainage swale,
Mhm.
but I've never seen a pipe there. We just piled some dirt in this, what I thought was a drainage swale.
Yeah.
Now, when you say that, now, and please indulge me for a moment. When you say the basin is at a higher elevation than the project site, is there any risk of overflow from the water basin onto the project?
It hasn't happened as long as we've been involved in the project, and it's been 8 years.
We also
don't think,
we also had the 100-year storm this winter, so if it would have.
We've had some wicked rainstorms here, as you know, over the past few years. Never an ounce of water out of that basin is into the property.
Okay. All right, so that basin contains whatever, okay. All right, well, unless anyone has any further comment, I think we can consider that addressed. All right, so now, just bear with me for one moment. Let's see. Just want to pull up the notice of hearing tonight. Let's see, all right. Hey, hold on, let's see. No, that's not it. I don't know if we can find it. Okay. Okay, what else? All right, okay, all right. Any final comments? We've gone through that. We went through the pipe issue, all right. Okay, yeah, oh, the fire chief. I don't see Captain Sojan, I think his name is, here tonight. Does anyone have any discussions with the fire chief about the revised plan?
We spoke after the meeting, and the captain indicated that he was going to be reaching out to us to discuss any of their concerns before this meeting, and we have not heard from them.
All right, well, someone might need to follow up with him, because we're under something of a
Yeah,
time.
because tomorrow's,
All right, well, that'll have to be something that we'll have to finalize tomorrow. If the fire chief has any objection to the revised plan, because it's not here tonight, we don't have the benefit of her views through her nominee. All right. As I found it, I didn't use them. Okay. All right. So that takes care of the items on the agenda that I've either noticed or been advised of. Let's see. The next thing is where I think we go to where we left off on the waiver reviews. Now I know that there was a new sheet that I think we have 3 copies here. There's a new sheet here that with a bunch of comments. I'm not sure how much different they are than they were in the past. But anyway, you can always look at these if we need to go over what notes where we start.
Excuse me.
Yes.
Mr. Chair, we did submit a new set of plans and a drainage report
This here.
yesterday electronically.
Okay, yeah, we got the hard
Copies
copy.
last night.
Yeah, we got them.
In response to JDE's review dated May 18th, which was a review on our resubmission of the reconfigured lots. And I don't know if you've had a chance to review that letter. Greg has any comments on our response to his letter, but I think it might be helpful to go through that briefly.
All right.
And with that submission was our, Mackenzie's markup of the KP waiver list that was provided in February. So, which we'll get to, but I think, so Briefly to review our response to Mr. Driscoll's comments,
That's the May 26th letter?
the May 26th letter, correct. He asked us to provide, as did GEI, examples of what enhanced nitrogen removal technology that the project might incorporate. And we provided examples right from Mass DEP website
Okay.
for certain technologies which are approved for general use.
All right, so I have here certification for general use, Arenco system, Advantex wastewater treatment, this thing here?
Correct.
Okay.
There are three. We submitted three.
Oh, hold on, let me just, are they all listed on this 11-page thing, or is it, or are they separate doc? No, they look to be
There
separate
was,
docs.
if you look, you actually had it up earlier, there were separate attachments in the
Okay.
Dropbox.
All right,
So they
okay.
were separate files.
Oh, I see, okay, all right, recirculating sand filter, I got two of them, I think. Let's see, what was the other one? All right, circulating sand filter, the Advantage Treatment Center, and the BioClear Treatment Systems,
Correct.
Octapoint,
Yeah,
supply
and
somewhere.
they're all, the Arenco and the BioClear systems are capable of providing both 550 and 660 gallons per day for 40,000 square feet of nitrogen loading. So GEI had asked for examples also in their recommendation section.
Okay, and is it your intent to use all three of these systems, to choose between these systems, or to, to start with one and see if you need another, or, so how?
We haven't really looked at the economics of them yet, but they're all, these are all approved by Mass DEP for general use.
And so the goal is, you'll use whatever you need in order to get the nitrate levels to the Title V standards, is that correct?
Correct.
All right.
The,
Okay.
the next item that we responded to had to do with the calculations that we submitted for isolated land subject to flooding. So there's two isolated vegetated wetlands which are not state, I should say, jurisdictional under the Wetlands Protection Act regulations. The question was posed by Mr. Driscoll as to whether or not they qualified as an isolated land subject to flooding resource, which is a resource area that contains a 1/4 acre foot to an average depth of 6 inches at least once a year. So we provided those plans and calculations to demonstrate that these areas did not qualify as ILSF, and Mr. Driscoll agreed, and therefore there are no wetland resources on the property that are jurisdictional under the state wetlands protection.
That's included in the revised stormwater management report?
It's actually on a separate plan that was filed called an ILSF watershed or calculation plan.
Okay.
It was in our previous submission.
All right. I remember seeing something like that in the Dropbox, either for that one or the previous one.
If there are any, I don't know if Mr. Driscoll has anything to add before we move on.
No, I reviewed the calculations, and as I said, in my review letter, I was in agreement with their calculations, and they do not qualify as state jurisdictional wetlands.
All right.
Just real quick, are we done with the hydrogeo discussion, so we could let Johnny know?
Yes, unless, I'm not sure, I think he's still here. Hi, Johnny, can you hear us? Well, he's technically on the meeting.
Hey, Ethan.
Oh, okay, here he is. Okay, Johnny, thank you for holding. I don't think we have anything for hydrogeo tonight, so if you want to, log off, you're free to do so. I think,
Okay.
Unless you've heard anything so far tonight, I'm not sure if I hope you've been able to hit here. If you've heard anything here tonight that requires comment from you, now would be a good time, but if not, have a good evening.
I haven't. I appreciate it. Thank you, Ethan.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
All right. So he is off. However, I see no reason to close my Zoom meeting just in case anyone else wants to come on. before.
I
before
guess
it ends.
we'll let Peter Dillon go too, I think he's on standby, or,
Okay.
you know, he said he was gonna try to connect.
I didn't see him. I think Mr. Corsi may have tried, but I didn't get any notification for the program itself that he was waiting. But however, but I'll keep it open just in case. All right, so anyway, where were we with your letter?
Okay, so we left off with the ILSF calculations.
Yep.
The other change that Mr. Driscoll requested with that is that we add a access easement, a 20-foot wide access easement along the, I don't know if you could call the plan up, but we had like 4 lots that had, we call it rat tails.
Yeah.
I think they were 5 feet wide or something. So we've added a 20-foot wide easement so that all of the property owners would have access to the other portions of their property that were to the east.
Okay, let's see if we can't pull up that plan, because I want to make sure I understand what you're talking about here. Okay.
The Dropbox, right?
Yeah, should be.
It's in the Dropbox, actually. If you look at the latest set of plans, there are like 5
Okay,
files in the Dropbox
Okay.
that we emailed yesterday.
Yeah, the site plan. Or maybe, the overlay plan might work.
But I can get.
Will the overlay plan work?
No,
Okay.
that's an older version.
All right.
This would be, if you look at the Dropbox that we emailed a link to yesterday,
Oh, yeah, it's a little hard because it cuts off, but if you can find the site plan, I think that's what, that's this one? Oh, hover over that.
Previous Dropbox
Yeah,
files,
that's-
this is brand new one.
Oh, wait, that's the old one.
Go back,
we've actually had it up at the beginning of the meeting.
okay, I'll have to go look at it then.
I think this is their old Dropbox, so I'm not sure.
Yeah, this is the revision 6 is the one I'm looking at now.
Are you? Because it looks like, the date looks older than that. Are you sure you're on revision 6?
Yeah, this is JD Greg revision 6. Oh, here's the Dropbox here, which is what? Oh, no. This has a date of. This is the one. I thought.
I can't pull it up, we'll have to go to the paper map.
Yeah, this is May 1st, 26.
Check your email, it's in the email link. It's in the email.
Was it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just check your inbox.
The Dropbox link is an email from yesterday.
I can hold this side if you want to open it.
That's all right, I'll just drag it across here. All right.
Greg, do you have email access here? Can you log into those? Maybe my computer is.
Okay. All right, I have here in front of me plans, let's see, site layout plan 6, I think that's what that might show what you're trying to show here?
That would be the.
Yeah, you can see it.
Yeah.
520.
520.
This is where you start to see it, the 20-foot wide access
Okay.
easements that they're referring to over
All
there.
right. All right, so this is what I think you're talking about with the rat tails there. You see the rat tails, those aren't new. But anyway, it says, a proposed 20-foot wide common driveway, is that what you're talking about, or are you talking about something?
No, it's
No?
along the southerly border of the site. It extends all the way from, I'm waiting for my computer to reboot here. It extends from the left to from the west to the east along the southern boundary of the site. There's a 25,
southern,
All right.
west to east, this way.
Okay.
Something was he looking for, or?
As, well, you know, I'm just showing you what,
These are the little
Yeah,
division.
yeah, the rat tails that they're
Rat
talking
tail
about.
lot.
those are on the prior plan, all right, so,
So it's.
It's right underneath that.
Right along here,
oh, okay, I see.
along the banks of this property.
So this.
Oh, so can I see that? Okay.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's the same drawing.
oh, actually, no, this is the, I think he's putting up plan, number 5, I got number 6 here, so I'm forward one.
Oh, the wrong plan number, this is 6.
All right, let me just,
It's
I think-
it is R6, is the file you want is R6.
let's go back to 5 here, 'cause, okay, this is a little easier because it doesn't have the houses on it. All right, so, okay, so I kind of see what you're, I think I kind of see what you're getting at. So you have these little dashed lines here, is that what you're talking about?
Yep. That's the
Okay.
easement.
All right, so that means that each lot is giving an easement to every other lot for this access.
Well, it says on the plan that the easement is for the benefit of lots 16, 17, 18, 19, and 21.
Okay. I'm sorry, could you repeat those numbers again?
16, 17, 18.
It's right on the plan at the bottom of the sheet. It says,
Oh, I see, okay.
proposed
Okay,
rear
16,
lot access for benefit of lots 16, 17, 18, 19, and 21.
all right,
So
okay.
essentially, provides a legal corridor from the left side to the, where it opens up again.
Okay, so it goes along the rat tail, so everybody, so those lots have a right to go along, a little further beyond the rat tails to get to the, where it expands out again.
To get to the, correct.
Okay, gotcha. All right,
The purpose of that is, it's their land, and they want to access it and use it for, I don't know, camping,
Yeah.
and the dogs run around, whatever.
yeah,
But that's their land,
because it looks like
So
the,
just for those,
yeah,
just for those units?
yeah.
Okay.
Good.
Gives
So,
a
because it
little-
looks like, without that easement, everyone pretty much has like a very
5
narrow,
feet.
5 feet
Very narrow,
corridor to
yeah.
get to the other part of their property, and obviously that may not be sufficient for certain uses. All right, so I understand. Okay, so that's been, that's been open, because we,
So is that part of the plan, like, so when somebody buys a unit there, it's all explained to them, this is what you're entitled
Yeah,
to?
it's part of the inheritance.
so they should, so it should say in their deed, in their condo docs, that- or, they do have this access that's an easement and not, but it doesn't, but they don't own it. Now, then, okay, so, all right, so that, I think that addresses that issue. Okay, I see, all right, so anyway, so your letter, all right, so that was sheet 5, all right, so now, so do you want to talk about the next sheets?
Yeah, the next comment, which is a response to item 6 in Mr. Driscoll's letter, was Delphic Associates in the binder for the application, zoning, the ZBA application designated, kind of took our site layout plan and marked up by hand, which units would be affordable.
Okay, yeah, okay,
So because the configuration has changed, Mr. Driscoll asked us to redesignate which lots are affordable. So on sheet 6,
yes,
there's a legend that says A.
yeah, all the As in the circles
all
on
the
the,
As.
yeah, gotcha,
Correct. Those are the affordable use, so there should be 15 of them,
okay.
Okay,
All right.
15,
All right, so,
25%.
all right, so just for the benefit of those at home and those in the audience who can't see the plan, all right, so there are 60 units, 30 duplexes, and 15 of those duplexes have an A in the circle, and that designates that that's an affordable unit. The units without the A, those are the market rate units.
Mr. Chairman, could I just say, the subsidizing agency has to approve the final location of and disbursement of those units, but that's our proposal as to where they would be.
All right, so noted, I think your letter does say
We
that.
do indicate that in our letter and
Okay.
on the plan.
All right, so this is the proposed distribution of the affordable units. The final one will be made by whatever agency you need to get approval from. Okay. All right, so that takes care of sheet 6.
I didn't realize it's 15.
Okay, all right, so sheet 7.
Sheet 7, we had some areas where with the grading is 2 to 1 and not 3 to 1, so a little bit steeper than the general practice of 3 to 1 slopes. So we've added notes in response to Mr. Driscoll's comments about using some erosion control blankets in addition to loam and seed to promote slope stabilization. And we added that to sheet 7. There's some notes in designating the 2 to 1 slope areas. And we added a detail to sheet 16 that has specifications for that.
Okay, all right, so let's, all right, so, so I think we can go on to the next sheet. All right, so sheet 8, let's see. Proposed location of potable wells and septic system shown for demonstration purposes and subject to change when individual lots permitted and further developed with the Board of Health. All right, so I see, you know, what the Ws are for, you know,
I think in response to the comment about the separation between the wells and the septic systems,
Okay.
we're going to maximize that distance wherever we can, given the configuration of the lot. But we've asked for the waiver because in some cases we can't provide 125 or 150.
yes, I understand. That was the subject of much discussion last week. All right, but I do see here where you mark out with the Ws where the wells are proposed to be. All right, and obviously, you know, and as you say, you know, the Board of Health will have to issue the final permit based on what waiver we grant here in these proceedings. That's my understanding of how that works. All right, okay, all right, you also, there's number 9 that says, homes will have electric heat, no propane tanks proposed. You know, that is what it is. Let's see, and what else, what's next on the letter? Okay, so the letter had no, all right, okay, so that pretty much, I think, goes over all the plans. There's only one other comment on this letter that seems to be addressable, and that talks about the stormwater management plan, I think, and the preliminary drainage calculation. I think we already discussed that. All right, so I think that goes over your latest and perhaps final comments to JD's comments to your revised plan, if that makes any sense.
Took some time this afternoon, I reviewed the responses and the plans, and didn't have a chance to write a letter, but I'm agreeing with them.
All right.
Okay, good.
All right. I'm going to roll this up in case.
The email that has the current Dropbox link. Might be easier.
All right, that might be a little easier. But I think that was helpful anyway, just to,
Can you go through
yes, get a better sense of what we're looking at
it?
here.
Yep, that's good.
I have to refresh it, just sent it.
Oh, he just sent it, Dave.
We did, okay.
Yeah, so you might have to refresh your.
Yep, all right. Oh. Attachment.
No. Is it in the email?
Oh, it's,
In the Dropbox,
Yeah.
yeah.
All right,
okay.
okay. So which document would you like him to pull
I
up?
think we're up to waivers now, I think.
Or is there anything else we need to talk about before we get to waivers? Back to waivers. All right, let's go and, Carolyn, do you have any idea where we left off when we last talked about waivers?
It might make sense, based on the color-coded version that's up there. Anything that is in red is anything new information. Some of it is just detail that the applicant has provided based on our earlier review of the waivers, or some might be, providing a dimension or saying whether they agree that a waiver may no longer be necessary.
So you think it would be best to just simply go through this table? And
If we go through the ones that have, red ink in them, those are ones that we need to just revisit.
All right, well, I think the first one is earth removal, obviously a subject which has been addressed in these proceedings and other proceedings. And,
So, based on my understanding of what was submitted, the applicant is agreeing that, there's an exemption from the earth removal bylaw for moving earth that's associated with, say, excavation for a septic system or for a foundation for a house and all of that. So that was part of our discussion last time, was there going to be some additional need for movement? And the applicant is still indicating that they do need a waiver, which I think, and I just want to clarify that I understand, that it's because you're going to be doing some grading. So you might move some soil, you excavate for a septic system or a foundation on, say, Lot 5, just to pick a number. It might then get moved to Lot 12, but overall it is staying on site? Is that the plan?
That's the plan.
Okay. So the purpose for the waiver is just to allow for that grading and movement of soil from one lot to another.
If there are unsuitable soils, they may leave the site. So again, it's not, so I think we discussed last week or the meeting prior, we discussed this waiver and we agreed that the board would be amenable to granting the waiver if we clearly, the concern was that we have about 10 acres of, that was open space that's now incorporated into lots that we're not gonna develop at all. The concern was that we're gonna just continue to, we're gonna excavate portions of the site that weren't incidental to construction, to build the project as shown on the plan. So what my comment says is that I thought we agreed that as a condition, we would clearly show the limit of work on the plan, so that everyone understood that there'd be no more activity outside that limit.
right, so essentially, your plan is going to draw a boundary that says, this is the work area, this is the untouchable area.
You okay with it?
Yes, we show the stockpiles on the topography, so those stockpiles have.
But they're not, I don't think they're within the area that you don't need to.
It's within the work area,
It's within the work area.
Within the
Yeah,
work area.
Yeah, so that's what we're talking about.
nothing outside the work.
Yeah. So I think we're okay with that.
There's some materials that still need to be removed from the site that were brought in there.
But they're within the work area.
In the-
All right. Okay, and where is this work area designated, or is that something that needs to
Well,
be?
if you look at the grading plan, wherever we're showing proposed grading,
Okay,
that is the limit of the work area. So
Okay.
Wherever the proposed grading, the thicker lines, contour lines, blend into the lighter lines, which are existing contours, that is the limit of work. We have not drawn a line yet on the plan to designate that, but that's where the line is drawn.
all right. Yes, Ms. Cronin, you'd like to say something?
Yes, I just had a question. I know that there were questions about the earth removal and that there should have been permits before and there weren't, and there was no really communication with the town, and there were just a lot of questions around that. I remember seeing that in the newspaper. So my question is, I just heard the gentleman in the suit saying something about, well, there's still some stuff we have to take off site that shouldn't have been there or something. I think I heard that. And then I wonder about enforcement. So I wonder if we're giving them a general waiver, how are we ensuring that they're doing what they're supposed to be doing, particularly with the last comment where the gentleman said, we've got to take some stuff off, we got to take some stuff off site that shouldn't have been there in the first place. That almost sounds like that's against what you guys just agreed to.
No. I don't think that's what I was saying.
Okay.
I am asking what you were saying. I wasn't trying to interpret it.
Okay? I wasn't saying that. There are materials that have been brought to that site that are in the limit of work area that still need to be removed. As a result, we need the earth removal.
So that would not be under the waiver, is what I'm
It would
hearing.
be clearly under the waiver, because it is within the work limit area.
All right, so if I understand, essentially, you need the waiver to get whatever you need to get in and out in terms of earth in order to make this 40B work,
As shown on the plan.
as shown on the plan. All right. So that's what we need to consider when you're considering your waiver request.
One last question, Mr. Chairman.
Sure.
How do we know it's the things that they brought in that need to be removed as opposed to something new? I mean, how does that get enforced?
Mr. Chairman, can I just ask the record's clear, who's speaking?
That's
My
the
name
ladies.
is Amy Cronin, I'm on the Conservation Commission, and I'm a citizen of Plympton.
There you go.
So, we have no problem with the condition that said there'll be no more processing of material in the work area, except in connection with the site work and the materials that are being left on the site. Any materials that are going off-site would just be removed if it's excess material, but only in the work area.
My question, sir, remains unanswered. How is this being enforced?
By a comprehensive permit that has conditions.
Yes, I mean, ultimately, the enforcement authority, I think, would fall under the zoning enforcement officer, is the chief representative of the board's, expression of what it will grant here. So if there is an issue, then it'll have to be between the zoning officer and the applicant, and if there's disagreement, then I think that then one or the other gets, if the zoning officer says, I think you're in excess of your permit, I think you're doing something in violation, I'm going to issue a new cease and desist order, and then the applicant can go in, they can come to us, or maybe the housing committee, or maybe the courts. I can't remember exactly which of the way it goes, but that's the general enforcement procedure.
It's going to come, well, we've got two things here. We've got whatever the activity was prior to this application being submitted, which is a separate legal proceeding of its own. There is then what needs to be done if the board should decide to grant this comprehensive permit. And what they're asking for in the waiver is they identify all the zoning bylaws, all the general bylaws, all regulations that might be triggered in order to be able to build this project. And they're asking to be able to move soil from lot to lot, and if necessary, also remove it from the site, but only as they are delineating the limit of work. And the limit of work is going to be, again, the septic systems, the foundations, the grading for the roadway, et cetera.
So essentially, as I understand, as long as they keep to what our condition is, and they don't peel it because they say they can't make it work. But let's say they agree to our condition and they take no more than they need, they shift no more than they need to get the houses built, then there's no problem. But if something else happens, then we might have a problem. There are procedures in place that can address that. That's I think the best way we can answer based on what could happen in the future, but it's difficult to predict how exactly these things go.
I've got a question either.
Sure.
I may. Is there currently a cease and desist order in place, and is that in litigation now? And do we need to consider that?
Yes.
There is. So that material, that litigation, that material that's on site isn't part of anything that needs to be done except to remove it, to build these lots and to build the buildings. So that we have to include that somehow in our decision or in our exemptions or in our...
I imagine, and I'll ask Attorney Galvin to jump in since he's involved with the litigation as well, is that eventually there's going to be some sort of a determination made as to what has been going on the site, whether it was authorized activity or unpermitted activity, and there's got to be some resolution as to what has been stockpiled. I mean, we're not going to build a 40B development and then have a stockpile, near the Mass DOT basin or wherever on site. So there's going to have to be some resolution brought with respect to the litigation. Depending upon what this board crafts as a condition, we're trying to much more narrowly tailor this to, you can move or remove from the site what is necessary to build this project. But we're not going back in time to forgive, the sins of the past, if you will, and authorize activity that may not have been authorized.
But if we do grant, their waiver request, going forward, that would seem to make whatever determination, whatever stay or cease and desist order in the past, that might supersede that, at least in terms of the work area. Obviously, if this allegation stuff outside the work area, that has nothing to do with us. But in terms of what's happening in the work area, our decision could effectively, override any sort of existing order that says, no, you can't touch what's there.
Correct.
All right, so.
Mr. Chairman, also, so you might recall, I think it was 2 hearings ago, we had applied for an earth removal permit at the end of March, and the select board scheduled a meeting, and they opened that meeting and immediately continued it to June 9th.
I remember that.
June 16th, I forgot which date it was.
Yeah, because we had to
Yeah,
we
they-
started and then they came and then we continued.
Right, so it's either gonna be resolved there or be resolved by this, and that will probably end the litigation, meaning prospectively,
Yeah.
but not anything dealing with the past.
All right, I think we've pretty much gone as far as we can with the earth removal issue. That, should we make any preliminary determinations now, or go on to the next item on the list?
Got a question, Ian?
Yes, Mr. Anderson. That's Jared Anderson. Oh, can you introduce yourself?
Oh, yes, Jared Anderson.
I knew Mr.
Okay.
Anderson, yeah.
So this is the select board's permit to issue. Have they offered any input for this waiver?
Mr. Chairman, respectfully,
Sure.
it's your permit to issue because you're the permit granting authority for the town under all its local bylaws, and the earth removal bylaw is a local bylaw only.
I understand that. However, Mr. Anderson's question, I think if they've made any suggestion or have any comment upon them, obviously we would have to, listen respectfully to that. Although, as you say, it's our decision, not the select board's decision.
We haven't even made a presentation to them because they opened the hearing and immediately continued it, so.
And that was due to the pending litigation in the Superior Court, wasn't it? It was the District Court.
Superior.
Well, I hope it wasn't, because
Okay.
they opened it and closed, they opened it, moved it. I raised it as an issue because we do have a lawsuit. I tend to think that it was the board's preference to hear it on a later date, and we'll leave it at that.
So if the, but getting back to Mr. Anderson's point, if the Board of Selectmen is going to hold a hearing on this, and presumably that there will be many issues discussed about the permit, why should we not have the benefit of that discussion and whatever arises from that?
Because it's not up to them.
Definitely.
It's up to your board. And continuing this matter or keeping it open to hear from a board that has to rely on your determination, because this is a comprehensive permit project, is actually the exact opposite of the way it's supposed to be.
Right. But what about like certain practical elements of the permit? For example,
We have no problem with like reasonable conditions.
like number of trucks, how many
If you wanted to limit it to,
cubic,
like, 40 trucks a day, or put hours of limitation.
yeah, that sort of thing.
All of those things are normal, and, when I do what Ms. Murray does, Attorney Murray does in other towns, and, there's a project on the Marshfield-Duxbury line that has a comprehensive permit for both Marshfield and Duxbury, and they have a waiver granted for earth removal, 70,000 cubic yards in that case, half of which in Duxbury, half in Marshfield, and both towns have put the same conditions on that earth removal. 40 trucks a day, you know, between the hours of so-and-so and so-and-so. You know, that's all kind of normal stuff, and we don't have any problem with any of that, because that's a normal.
When do we have to make those put the limits on them for that?
So as of Friday, the public hearing closes. And then we go into the 40-day deliberation period, which is when we start, I present you with a draft decision, and the board starts discussing conditions. But essentially, we've only got 40 days starting Saturday to finesse the conditions.
Okay, but we don't need to talk about we don't have to decide on the practical matters that Attorney Galvin just mentioned by Saturday, do we? Or is that, do we have to do
No,
that by
but-
Saturday, or do we
but
have to do
it-
that within the 4 days after Saturday?
If you want to put a limit, like Attorney Galvin was just suggesting, a limit of, I don't know what the 40 trucks per day, what's that based on, or if that's even too much, too little, whatever, I'm not sure. But if you want to put a limit as to, say, the number of trucks per day, or the number of cubic yards that can be removed on a given day, I suggest having that discussion now to get a sense of, are we talking 2 trucks a day, or are we talking, 50 trucks a day? What do they anticipate to be the case? Hours of operation, that's typically something that we put in any decision. 7 a.m. to 5 p.m., maybe it's only Monday through Friday, maybe you allow some activities on Saturdays, nothing on Sundays and holidays, typically that type of thing. But if you have any questions from them, now and tomorrow is your time to ask it.
Okay, all right, so why don't we spend a few minutes on the practical matters? All right, so anyway, how many cubic feet do you anticipate needing to remove to get your project done?
By 27, please.
What?
What?
Yes.
Cubic yards.
Cubic feet, cubic.
How many cubic yards?
40,000.
Approximately 40,000.
Right, approximately 40,000, all right, okay, how many truckloads is it gonna take to remove that 40,000 cubic yards?
You know, it's always funny, if you use an 18-wheeler, you can haul
Exactly.
it out a lot quicker than you can if you use a 10-wheeler. So, the important thing I think that we would be willing to offer up is that we won't use any local roads in Plympton. The stuff is gonna be hauled out of the site through Carver and then right up to Route 44.
Yeah, because essentially, as I understand, where the lot is, you go down the access road, it's Ricketts Ponds Drive, right? And then what's the main road there that it intersects with?
Spring.
And then from there to the highway. Is
So
that?
that's why we would be amenable to a condition that said no local roads.
All right, so that's the proposed route of removal of the material. Okay.
And the other thing, it's important for us to know how you feel about the earth removal waiver, because if you were to deny that, we would want to make an economic argument to you, the impact of that on the project, so.
If we denied it, I'm not sure how you could do your project
Well,
without it.
That's the
why
problem.
I kind of need to know, the conditions, we're amenable to any reasonable condition, and we're trying to suggest a couple that we could agree to. And, I'm sure Attorney Murray can look at some of the decisions, and would be amenable to all of them, but we're certainly willing to make a condition that no local roads would be used, and we're willing to an hour limitation. I don't think anybody wants to haul on Sundays or holidays, and certainly,
All right, I would suggest maybe, always
I
proper.
still don't understand how many trucks. How many trucks?
well, if you put a limitation on us using 10-wheelers, it takes us a lot longer and more truckloads.
Okay, give
than
us
we
both.
use 18-wheelers.
Give us both then.
Which are you going to use?
It depends on the job site. Some we can get trailers into, some we.
We are, on this
But you know
particular
this
job
site.
site.
What I would do is just use an average of 24 cubic yards. So trailers haul a little more than that, 10-wheelers, triaxles a little bit less. And my
So-
permit for Carver did not differentiate between what size trucks were used. It was 50 loads per day, that was it, didn't matter what size truck. So I would propose 50 truckloads per day,
Okay,
7 to 4 o'clock. I'm basically just mimicking my permits that I had in Carver. I had 2 on the Carver side.
1,660,
Wait a minute,
1,700.
okay.
24 cubic feet per truck,
It's an
I have a
average.
number.
yards,
1,600.
1,600 trucks?
1,700.
Between 2,500 and 4,000, depending on the size. Triaxle, 2,000 loads.
Is that about right?
I don't think that's correct.
If you're talking 40,000 cubic yards,
Divided that by 22,
Up to-
24.
a
24.
triaxle dump truck can take 20 cubic yards, that's 2,000 loads.
No, I said 24 average.
1,700.
So it doesn't really matter, we're gonna limit the number of loads per day. If you wanna do more loads per day, I can do the job quicker, if that's what you're getting at.
How many are you doing now?
We're not doing anything now.
So, just for clarification, I thought we were talking about nothing was gonna be removed unless it was excess from shaping the lots and digging the foundation.
exactly
So
what we're doing.
where is all this coming from?
We're building exactly what's on the plans, and Mr. McKenzie's firm, in the end, will do an as-built of the site and show exactly how we built it per the plan and spec. And that's what we had to do on the Carver side. They required an as-built drawing at the end to show that we built the project to the intended grades. No more, no less, because if we took more, it would also affect his distance to the water table for septic systems. He's gonna design the septic systems in advance, but they are gonna be in conjunction with the proposed grades that he shows on the plan. So we're certainly not gonna take more than we have to, and that's all shown on the plans. It shows where we're starting and where we need to finish. No more, no less.
Yes.
If I may?
Sure.
None of this reflects the gravel, the piles that are there now in question
It's
under
all shown on the plans.
So is that part of the 40,000?
Yeah, yeah,
So
that's,
the piles are part of the 40,000, that's what his estimate. So maybe that answers your question about where's the 40,000 coming from? Because, I mean, those piles are substantial.
yeah, no, we did topo on it.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, all right, so if I've done my math correctly, all right, so I can gather, all right, so, 50 truckloads a day, roughly 24 cubic yards per truck, that's about 1,200 cubic yards a day, and that gives you, to get rid of 40,000 cubic yards, it's gonna take you about 33 and 34 days. So, that's my understanding of how long this is gonna take, assuming if we can approve the schedule that you're proposing.
Yeah, not every day we're gonna do 50 loads of it. Sometimes we have lulls and we don't take anything out. Other days, we'll hit the 50, but.
Okay. All right, but still, this does sound like something that can be done in 2 to 3 months.
As long as the economy keeps going the way it is and.
Not all the lots, people.
Huh?
Not all the lots, 2 or 3 months.
Not on the lots, but on the surplus.
I mean, the whole site's not gonna be built out in 2 or 3 months, the
Yeah.
grade,
Okay.
to the finished grades of the plan. I think that's.
Okay,
that
but the initial, what you initially need to do, which,
is the roadway.
yeah, so, and of course, you need to level that area and get rid of any of those hills that are gonna be, that may currently be in between you and the.
Big piles.
The big
and-
piles, yeah.
And then building the roadway, and the lot development comes after that.
So, all right, so what I'm trying to get at is that I do not anticipate that we're gonna see 50 trucks a day, every day, week in, week out for 2 years.
No.
All right, so I understand, it's gonna be a little staggered depending on what needs to be done and when, but anyway, but I expect, that there would be an initial, intensity of blow while you get rid of what you need to get rid of to get that, to get the road and get it level, and then you'll go house by house with whatever you need, whenever you whenever you need to, and that'll be less impactful on the surrounding area and neighborhood after that. Yes, Mr. Anderson?
During the 2023 earth removal hearing before the prior select board, Mr. McKenzie indicated that 180,000 cubic yards needed to come out in order to level the site. And I think it was 620,000 had to come out of Carver.
I was never present at that meeting, I'm not sure what.
I do remember the prior application for this property did involve an earth removal operation, which was denied, and perhaps that may have been the proposal there, but that was 2023, as I remember correctly. Or was it 20? I think it was 2023, because I know there had to be the year cooling off period, so 2025. So that may have been referencing that, but if the applicant's proposing 40,000, roughly 40,000 cubic yards, do we have anything we can put in the plan to ensure that it's not going to balloon into the 180,000? Do we have any?
You could put a condition in it that required us to, measure the material as it comes off.
Provide the transportation sheets to the building inspector.
The slips from the trucking.
Yeah.
And a second question, for the Carver side, the Carver earth removal board set a 25 cents per cubic yard fee. Is this board gonna set any such fee?
Did you know what board or agency of Carver imposed that fee?
Mr. Olpachinski could tell you more about the Carver board.
You're running into an issue that will probably create a problem if you demand from us a tipping fee or some other fees.
But if you were to go before the Board of Selectmen for an earth removal permit, don't they have some kind of fee structure in place?
Probably.
But this is a 40B project. This is not an earth removal project. This is before you.
Right, so essentially you're saying the earth removal is incidental as opposed to the primary.
Correct.
Correct.
All right.
But normally, to get an earth removal permit, you have to go before the selectmen, correct?
Correct.
Yes.
Which is what you guys did before, and that's what all this,
And they have an application pending again. Yes.
okay. So they're still trying to remove, but that's a separate.
We're either asking for the select board to approve it, or we're asking your board to approve it, or
Okay.
both.
All right. And in your application to the Select Board, are you looking to have the same work area approved? What I'm trying to say is, are you asking for more from the Select Board than you're asking for
I think
from
we
us?
took the 40B plans, so I think it's the precise same area.
All right.
Submitted it.
Yeah, because obviously I can't see anyone granting you a small one than a larger one, because it really doesn't really work with residential
We
and
went with the
habitation.
same plan, so.
Yeah, all right, I understand that, all right, so, okay, so I think we have a general idea of what we want to deal with the hours of operation, the number of trucks, I think, that can be governed by practices that we just talked about, so hours of operation, number of trucks, the transportation logs, the rough limit. So is there anything else we need to talk about earth removal before we go on to the next issue on this list?
Are you gonna tell us the sense of the board on this waiver, so that we know?
Nope. You have
You
to
mean in
decide
terms of the
this
conditions and
project.
operating procedure?
Like when you've discussed your other conditions,
only
you kind of said it.
granting it for them to
is the board
build this
favorably
project.
inclined to
Oh,
grant this
okay.
waiver, that type of
So we
You could certainly ask the Select Board for their input, but again, your
No,
last
no.
hearing on this is tomorrow.
No, I know, I understand. Well, they have a meeting on the 9th.
Sorry,
Would
so,
that be part of
so
that?
Attorney Galvin asked if we were willing to, you know, give a sense of how we stand on this the earth removal request. And, you know, because basically, you know, in the past, we've pretty much said, okay, this is our feeling on this, so, and, you know, what, as I recall, we've not committed to any final vote on any waiver request, because obviously, you know, we just said, this is our general understanding, you know, we've discussed this matter, we can move on, because we do have a number of these things to get to before the end of the evening. But anyway, I think the sense is that, you know, that we have discussed the earth removal contours of it, you know, in appropriately, and I think we should move on and we should revisit the earth removal when we make the final votes.
You only have till tomorrow, but we need to know whether you're gonna, how you're gonna act on this, because while the hearing's open, we would then wanna make the economic argument.
If we grant your permit your waiver request, then you don't need to make the argument.
Correct.
So should we have the argument?
We could, I mean, obviously, you know, he needs to make it so that his record, you know, so he's made the record, you know, if we are not inclined to grant the waiver, he should make the argument so that he's perfected his record for any appeal to the housing board. You know, but if we say that we are, you know, favorably inclined to grant the waiver, that would obviate him from having to have that discussion.
Favorably granted with conditions.
Yes, with
any reasonable conditions.
Anyway, so,
Because you mentioned about, I think it was Marshfield and Duxbury, how they made those conditions.
They did.
Did they also have an incident where earth removal was happening in their town without
It was
permission?
on a gravel pit, and there had
Okay.
been no earth removal.
There had been no earth
It
removal?
had been abandoned, but it was an earth removal. It was actually a gravel pit.
As was this site. back in
Yeah,
the
so it
80s.
has to have a lot removed, obviously, but I guess I'm just wondering, because in this instant, there's already been an issue with the applicant removing
And
without permission, so
and
that's, I don't know
we
if
have
that
a
was,
We have a lawsuit with the town of Plympton over that issue, and the issue is pending.
okay,
And I don't wanna say which is gonna happen, because I don't know what's
you
gonna
don't
happen.
know, right?
I mean, the lawsuit was just filed a couple of weeks back, and we had a
Okay.
hearing in front of a judge just a couple of weeks ago, so, you know, and that's just the first preliminary step in what happens in the case, so. But again, I said to the judge, because we had a hearing on this, I said to the judge that
Okay.
we expected that maybe the case would be moot because we would either have an earth removal permit from the select board, or we would have a comprehensive permit authorizing the earth removal necessary to build this project. One of the others, you know, we felt we could. So I was very clear to the judge that that was going on, and I used it as a part of my argument that the select board continued the hearing and didn't give us the ability to explain it, so.
so
Could you tell us the approximate value of the 40,000 cubic feet of sand, cubic yard?
I couldn't. I don't know how that comes into play. What does that matter?
I think it matters a great deal.
I agree with Mr. Tooth, yeah, it makes any difference.
If I might.
Yeah.
A lot of the material there, it seems, when we did a site walk, was not just gravel, or not just sands. There was processed material that was in piles there, right? Loam, unprocessed
Any of
material.
the stockpiles that we're moving, which is approximately 40,000 yards, is material that we have hauled into the site that did not originate from the site. And that's part of our argument before the court right now,
Right.
is how the Carver bylaws are written.
Right.
It says surface or subsurface material, and none of that material came from the surface or subsurface of the project. So, once we remove the stockpiled material that came in from other sources than Plympton, the site is pretty much the grade. You guys have walked it.
Right.
And it pretty much follows the grade.
But that's what's in litigation now, are the stockpiles. not the earth you have to move to build the 40B.
Well, it's there.
Well,
it's there,
they,
and it
I've
has to
heard
be.
I mean, it's on
different
top of
versions.
everything you gotta move.
They hung their hat on the word processing.
You want us to stop processing material, which we offered to do.
And you have done or haven't done?
We've offered, we're not processing any materials. We offered to stop processing materials there.
Okay. But there's still
And any
processing.
material that we've hauled out recently was not generated on the site. It was material that we simply hauled into the site, screened it,
Right.
whatever, and then hauled it out. You
So-
guys have walked the site, you saw
Right.
everything was in piles. Did you, and I'm sure you didn't see any evidence that we were excavating virgin material on the site.
No.
And I had the ZBA out there, not the ZBA, but the building inspector, both Kathleen and Tom Millius,
Mhm.
3 times this year, following up on complaints. And they will tell you that there was no evidence that we were doing any earth removal other than taking our own piles out.
So is this a catch-22 then? If you fail in court with these piles and you can't move them, then you can't process or remove or grade and move around the soils that you need to build a
The
40B?
court case won't be decided before either the select board grants an earth removal permit or this board is involved with a comprehensive
It
permit.
won't be decided before
Will
then?
not be decided.
So then you can't start
The
anything.
case is gonna become moot because either we'll have an earth removal permit from the select board,
Right.
or we expect that we would have a comprehensive permit with conditions on earth removal from your board. And that won't erase anything that's happened in the past, and we'll resolve that, outside of this purview. But it will authorize work going forward, we believe.
Okay. Amy's got another question.
Yes.
Amy Cronin, Plympton, Mass. I heard Jared ask the question about can we charge them for earth removal, and I heard this attorney's answer. And it was because it was a byproduct. Are we prohibited from charging for earth removal in the case of what they're doing? And I'd like to hear from our attorney in this board.
So for the record, Carolyn Murray, KP Law is Town Council. This is a 40B application, not an earth removal permit application, okay? They may need to remove earth removal to dig foundations, septic systems, et cetera, the same way any individual homeowner might need to remove earth if they want to put in a swimming pool or whatever it happens to be. That doesn't convert it to an earth removal permit, per se. Earth removal is more of a commercial mining activity, where the only use of the site is to go in and extrapolate soils, gravel, whatever it might be, and to then process it or ship it off-site, and there's a value to it, as Mr. Wheelock was alleging. That's not what is being asked here in the context of this 40B. We are not allowing an earth removal or a mining or a quarrying operation. We're only allowing what they need to grade a road or what they need to excavate for purposes of building these 60 duplexes, if the board is inclined to grant it. So typically, in a 40B setting, this isn't about a commercial enterprise. This is about building housing. And so there's typically no fees, certainly no tipping fees or whatever else the select board might call them. Those don't come into play here. The select board want to consider that separately as part of their earth removal application pending. That's their purview to do that. But here, this is about allowing the duplexes and the road to be built.
However, it's gray, because how many cul-de-sac housing developments have you heard of where it was necessary to remove 1,700 trucks loads of sand to build a housing development? I've never heard of it.
It's almost every project we do.
I'm not surprised.
Well, I mean, if you build in a town other than Plympton, or in towns that are hilly, and you cut a new roadway, you're removing vast quantities of materials from the site to build the roadway, bring it down to grade. You have a lot of cranberry bogs here. Those cranberry bogs are not all natural existing, people removed
Yeah, we're aware.
hundreds of thousands of cubic yards of sand to create an area where they can grow things. Lastly, your code doesn't require or provide or authorize any type of tipping fees.
Yeah, that's kind of off the page.
Maybe that's something we need to do for bylaws.
All right, well, I think we've probably gone over this issue.
So just to clarify, we'd be just saying it's okay to remove enough dirt to build. We're not saying anything about what's already been done and that, because he mentioned he's expecting either by the board, the select board, or by us, and therefore they would be okay.
Or he also said, or both. So I think a lot of this is going to depend on how the court looks at this, quite frankly.
Yeah.
And one of the unfortunate things about earth removal or tree clearing, whatever it may be, once the earth is removed or once the trees are cut down, you don't have the remedy of saying, put it back the way it was.
Yeah, you
Now, does that mean that there might be an opportunity for some damages? Yes, but that's going to be up for a court to decide.
And that's what this case is involved.
That we're going to put to the side because that's going to be the court's purview, not,
Yeah.
So I think the question that's before us now is whether we wish to give a preliminary indication on how the board would handle the issue of the earth removal permit in order to give the applicant an opportunity, if the board was not inclined to make their economic impact argument, and then after that, then we can go on to the next subject on this list here. Should that be the correct way to proceed?
whether you do it now or whether you go through the rest of the items on the list and then return to this. Like I said, the clock is ticking. So we're running out of time to indicate whether you're inclined to grant or deny any of these waivers. And, I imagine they may also have an uneconomic argument to make with respect to the Board of Health setbacks between the septic systems and the wells as well. So I don't know if you want to address this now while earth removal is fresh in your minds, or you want to return to this after you've gone through the whole list.
No. Well,
Because they wanted a waiver for the Board of Health as well.
Well, for example, they've presented their argument on the septic systems based on the alternative innovative technologies approved by DEP, which requires you to grant a waiver from the Board of Health supplemental regulations on Title V. If you were to deny that waiver, I don't know how this project gets built.
so it would seem to me, it would seem to me that considering we have a rather limited time here, perhaps it might be best to actually start taking votes now on these waivers and get as much done as we can tonight, and what we can't get done tonight, we have to take up tomorrow. Does that seem to be a plan?
I mean, we won't have the ability to develop a written submission if you decide this tomorrow night before the hearing closes. That's our line.
All right. So then it would seem to be, if you have an issue with how we vote tonight, tomorrow night you would have the day, I guess, to make any written submission if you wish, or just an oral submission, and to tell us why make this project uneconomical, or or why the board should have granted the waiver, or whatever you wish to say on that subject.
I mean, I can tell you, generally speaking, the project will not be buildable or constructible at all without the earth removal. And if you deny the other waiver, you're going to take a 60-unit project, and you're probably going to make it a 20-unit project, which will render the project clearly uneconomic. We can give you the data that supports that, but we're going to take a project where we can probably make 10% or so, and you're gonna make it a negative. And if you reduce it down by even 5% here, and you're already under what is uneconomic, it's a disaster.
Were you just talking about the Board of Health's regulations or the earth removal?
I'm talking about the Board of Health supplemental regulations, and then the earth removal bylaw.
All right, so just on the Board of Health, so essentially, if we say, no, we're not gonna grant that waiver, then that turns your 60-unit project into a 20-unit project.
Probably.
And at that,
I mean, that's the effect of it, but we would bring an appeal to the House of Appeals.
sure, but I just want to understand what, you know, make sure I understand clearly what you're trying to say. All right, so. Is there anything else I need to talk about? All right, so.
I mean, I've made this argument in other cases, but, you know, this innovative technology is the way to the future. And it's prohibited in Plympton because of an alleged inability to monitor these projects for compliance. And we're, again, willing to any reasonable conditions, and these are ordered on the Cape and permitted by state law. And, you know, if you look at any of the case law from the AJC on these types of issues, these are deemed exclusionary practices to projects like this.
All right, I understand what you're saying, and essentially, you know, if you say, you know, if we do impose, you know, the Board of Health's regulations, whether it's regarding the distances between the septics and the wells, or the prohibition on alternative technologies, whatever project you can build is simply not worth it. And the word being uneconomic essentially means that the incentive is no longer there for the developer to build this project.
I mean, it's actually even a reduction of the economics can render a project uneconomic.
So, do we have has the applicant actually proposed, you know, what, you know, essentially, you know, whatever their profit and loss, or how they've determined how they've come up with, and say that, you know, you say you want 60 units, right? And you say, okay, at 60 units, it's economic, we can make money. But at 50 units, or 55 units, or 40 units,
We can't.
we're in the red.
So we did submit, when we originally applied to Mass Housing, a pro forma, which was provided to the town, and it was submitted with our application here as to what the proposed economics were for this project with the 60 units. And I will call Mr. Cusson if you deny this, and we will articulate tomorrow what the economic impact is of a denial on both of those tomorrow.
Okay. Yes, Jared?
Speaking as just one single Board of Health member, we have others here who may want to chime in.
You did post a meeting, didn't you?
Say again?
You did post a meeting, didn't you?
Yes.
Okay, good.
So I think some concessions on the IA systems, we could have a discussion about. Scott Horsley definitely,
Yes,
he gave us his view, but also Greg and GEI gave us theirs, and Attorney Galvin mentioned standby power. I was looking into the Title V requirements for it. It needs to be indicated in the deed. Things like that. We just need a way to control that it can't be shut off. It can't be tampered with by a homeowner. Just ways to make sure that it continues operating. If you're inclined to grant a waiver, we would be seeking, or this is still me personally speaking, I would want to see conditions that ensure that it continues to operate, and that's just me. I don't know if you guys want to chime in at all.
Yeah, Brad Cronin, Board of Health as well. I would second Jared's comments that will be something that we're looking for in conditions, and something we've done in the past on projects.
I'm sorry, Brad, have you approved, but I don't think, but has Plimpton actually approved alternative systems in the past?
I believe there was one commercial property, not residential, commercial property,
Uh-huh.
and those parameters were put on it. The problem with single-family and two-family homes is it's very difficult if something fails to force someone out of their primary residence. It's a lot different with a commercial, you can close a business. So we would want some stipulations on this.
All right. Okay, well, it seems to me that, that we should definitely make movement on these two issues tonight, because they seem to be the ones that are most important and most impactful. So let's focus on these two issues, and then we'll see what else we can get to, because I think that's, these are the two big issues here. That's why people are coming out here tonight, and so I think we should try and give some not final, because tomorrow night's final, but some preliminary ideas of how we can resolve these two, maybe two waiver requests or two sets of waiver requests, but on these two issues, because, that's what people seem to be most concerned about. Not to say that no other issue is not important, but, but let's take care of this tonight. Does anyone have any objection to that? All right, so anyway, we still have about 24 plus hours still after this, but, okay, all right, so let's get back to the earth removal. I think, again, we've talked about this for an hour, but I would suggest that, based on what I've heard tonight, that if we impose, the reasonable conditions about operations, hours, trucks, the transport, the reasonable conditions that the applicant's willing to agree to make sure that their operations are confined to what is needed and no more to build their units, I think we should grant them the waiver, because I believe that if not now, it's going to happen despite us, and I'd rather be the one who's the board that's actually governing on what is going to happen and how it's going to happen, rather than having it imposed by another authority in the future. So I would like to see that. I would like, if we are going to get this permit, I would like to see it be done by us, and be done in a way that does allow the units to be built, but also protects the health and safety of the town's residents.
If it helps, I would be happy to forward my permits that I've had in Carver, so that you could mimic the exact same wording if you want.
Yeah, I think that would be very helpful.
That would be good, yeah.
All right, so that's my thought on that subject. Does anyone have a contrary thought?
It's still unclear to me what we would be doing with a decision or a condition now. If it's for just the housing, just the septic, just the roadways, the gradings, the sidewalks, and the completion of the project, without or having the Board of Selectmen resolve what's going on in court now, such that all that stuff is done and gone, then yeah, it seems like
it's
that
kind of a
would be an easy
no-brainer.
job to do, and we could cite terms and conditions that would apply. But if we have to deal with something that may or may not impact this, maybe by twice what we got just to move dirt around, because there's nothing coming off the site once your stockpiles are gone.
Right, there may be a little bit up towards the cul-de-sac, it's supposed to be.
Yeah,
an even
it's a
pitch,
couple of
but-
six-wheelers a day,
Yeah,
something like that.
it's a
right?
relatively small amount.
Yeah.
Near the cul-de-sac, we leave the paved surface that's there now.
And I would think that's encompassed within the incidental need to remove what is reasonably necessary to build the house
Yeah.
and to grade the area to keep it safe, keep from flooding, whatever have you. And based on the law, based on the scheme that we're required to administer here, I don't see any great obstacle to allowing that, as long as the conditions are in place to protect the reasonable conditions are in place to give protection to the health and safety of the residents of both Plympton and Carver, because obviously they're traveling through Carver, so they have to be limits on that too. Be limits on them. We want to be good neighbors here, and with that, I think we can we can grant them what they seek in terms of the earth removal. Again, with the understanding that, whatever your issue with the town, the suit and that sort of thing, the past, that doesn't encompass this. This is only going forward, and to the extent that you need to, do your project. That's, I think, my understanding of what I think is what the applicant has shown that is capable of, that will be required to make his project work.
The only other part of that to complete would be some proof so that, as someone suggested, we get an idea of what they're taking off and when and how much, so that we can track it and know that it's not indeed something else that's coming in or.
I think someone
or
talked
off
about
with it.
transport records or.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right,
that's-
the trucking slips.
Trucking
Yeah.
slips, all right,
Yeah.
so-
Mhm.
so
That was
that'll be
trucking
part of the
slips.
conditions, is that
Yep.
they provide the trucking slips.
So it's not exorbitant,
Yeah.
We can follow it
Yep.
better.
Okay. 'Cause that's what I
They
was
also
thinking.
said they stipulate no traffic on Plympton roads.
Yeah, no traffic on local roads, yeah, that's definitely an important part, because I don't see there would be much need for it, because, based on where their site is versus where the exit to Route 44 is right there. Under normal circumstances, I can't see any other travel except from them out through the industrial park, up the street, and on the highway.
Part of our conditions of the permits that we've had in Carver is no left turn out of our road. So you
Okay.
can't go left and then go to High Street.
Yeah, okay, yeah, I know the road, so I know where you go there.
I did deliver some material locally to some houses that were built, right around the corner. That would be the only exception, but it's not gonna be like, 50 or 100 truckloads.
So we could say the same thing then.
And-
Right-hand turns only if you're going up under the
Right,
ramp.
that's why I offered up the conditions that
And you have
Carver
that.
imposed on us.
And if I remember correctly, granted, your geography, your understanding of the geography might be a little better than mine, I don't think there's any houses on High Street between you and the highway, any residential houses. I think they're on, yeah, Spring Street, sorry.
Spring Street ends at High Street,
Yeah,
right on the line.
Yeah.
So if you take a right, you're going.
but if you take the right and get from there to the highway, you're not passing any houses. All right. All right, so, I'm sorry, people, why I
Can I
cough.
get you some water? Where's the water?
Where's the law?
Oh, there you go.
There you go.
What a guy.
All right, so I think we've reached an understanding here on this issue, and and I don't believe that Attorney Galvin will need to make his economic argument as to this issue. I think we can come to agreements on this waiver that can satisfy both the board's concerns and permit the applicant to handle his project. But if there is any, but by tomorrow, we'll make final determinations about the hours of operation and such, so I want to leave that open just for now, just in case there's any final objection there. All right, so can
So
we?
that has to be done tomorrow,
Yeah.
not within the 40 days?
No, you can still deliberate in the 40 days, but like I said, if there was going to be any denial that the applicant would say renders the project uneconomic, that has to be made while the hearing is still open.
So, and I think that's fair to the applicant. So if the board is inclined to not grant a waiver permit that the applicant believes would make their decision uneconomic, we should make it as soon as possible so they have an opportunity to make their argument and protect the record. All right, so let's talk about the Board of Health regulations.
You want to just jump to those at this point
Yeah.
then?
Are they in the waivers?
Oh, yeah, they're in here.
What page?
Well,
That's in the wetland, right?
no, it's the Board of Health Title V Supplemental Regulations.
The red stuff unless it's Board of Health.
They're on page 17 of my version of the list, which was emailed yesterday. Actually, it was emailed last weekend. but
Yeah.
emailed again
Okay,
yesterday.
yeah.
It, yeah. So you haven't reviewed any of the Board of Health regulations. I know that there are two that we really need to get to, but we haven't reviewed any of them yet.
Yeah.
Do we want to go through them one by one, or go to get to the important ones first, and then we'll double back with?
Actually, all of them.
But you said there were two you were most concerned with.
Right, the setback
Maybe-
distance and
maybe
the
start with
alternative
those.
technology are kind of the two key
Page
ones,
17.
but,
17, you said, oh, okay. There should be some red.
We still have to
coming
go
up
through
here.
them all, but if we get through them.
right.
Where's the, I remember the setback distances were one. Where's, do you see the one about the alternative testing? Because I know
Yeah,
that's.
it's at the very end of the section in the Board of Health. It's
Remember that?
282.
Red, yeah, it's in red, yeah. Because it was an addition.
Okay, all
Yep.
right, I see. Types alternative system, all right, so,
So it's
since,
page 22-ish.
all right, since we're, I know we're jumping around a little, but since we've already had, talk about that, let's try and get that out of the way, then we can double back to the other ones. All right, so now the last one on the list, it's, all right, so as types of alternative systems, nothing. All right, so no alternative systems, that's the regulation, that's in the town of Plympton's Board of Health supplemental Title V regulations. All right, and the applicants has asked for a waiver request on that. Now, and they've indicated the type of technologies they wish to use, and they are approved by the, they are the ones, the ones that are approved by the Mass DEP. And so I guess the question, goes back to, what kind of conditions, and I know the Board of Health, I know Mr. Anderson has just talked about what the Board of Health would want to see about continuous power not being able to shut off by the residents, that sort of thing, to address Mr. Horsley's concerns that the systems aren't operating, that the residents are preventing,
They can't shut them off.
they can't shut them off. So anyway, so the conditions, I think, should incorporate, should address those concerns.
We have a question.
Yes, Mr. Bloomquist.
If the larger corporation.
Oh, you haven't spoken before. Would you mind just introducing yourself?
Oh, sure, Arthur Bloomquist, Board of Health.
Okay, good.
Lake Street.
Okay, all right, continue.
The condition could be included that the larger HOA, not just the smaller, but the big one, if they could be responsible for all the inspections and the maintenance and so forth. It's just with one person to point to instead of a whole bunch of people.
Yes, and so as I understand that, essentially, there is going to be, the individual, there's going to be the two types of HOA, the one for each individual building, duplex, and the one that encompasses the whole project. And you've suggested that that inspection and maintenance and enforcement authority should be in the larger development.
That's correct. And that would give the Board of Health one person to talk to.
And I'm sorry, what was the last thing?
That would give the Board of Health one person to
Okay,
talk to.
and to designate
Instead.
to designate a board member to be the Board of Health liaison.
Instead of 30 different people or
Yeah,
whatever.
I know, it makes sense, because usually what you do in this, say, is, the residents will vote in like 7 members of, 7 unit owners to be on the governing board of the overarching unit, and they're the ones that make the decision, like, how, the road fixes and finding people because they let their dogs off on the leash or whatever have you. The overarching HOA, and I think that's a good idea, to have that entity be the one responsible to ensuring that individual unit owners are keeping their systems on and up to date.
And that was my suggestion too.
So,
Makes sense.
So if I may, so I suggested some of these possible conditions at our last meeting, but maybe to bring them all in. We would require that each unit have a backup generator to ensure that the alternative systems remain powered, even in loss of power. we'd put in language that they can't be shut off, can't be tampered with by individual homeowners. I would also suggest that we require an operation and maintenance plan for these various technologies, because especially if, you might wind up with 3 different technologies, and therefore there might be 3 different O&M plans that are associated with them. And then based on those O&M plans, they usually require, let's say, annual inspections. They might require it more frequently than that, but at least annually, so that the systems would have to then also be inspected. We would require that they provide proof of a contract with a third party who is going to perform those inspections, and that the inspection reports be provided to the Board of Health. And then, as a member of the Board of Health also just mentioned, that would all be required to be built into the overarching HOA documents, so that this isn't just up to
Each individual.
or the individual condo unit between a duplex or 2 duplex owners. And an individual trustee from that overarching HOA is designated to be, or identified to be, the liaison to the Board of Health. That's the person who's responsible for rounding up all that documentation and providing it to the Board of Health.
And those will have to be in the condo docs.
And those would have to be, I'm sorry?
In the condo docs that set up the HOA.
Yes.
Does anyone have an issue with those conditions?
With respect to what you said about 3 different types of technologies, it's our intention to look at the economics, to choose one.
Okay.
For the entire development, that would be
So it's consistent.
each lot would be required.
All right, so essentially, we would have the condition then be,
Choose one.
if it's only one, then you only need the one plan. If there's more than one, you need one plan for every technology you wish to
And
use.
these suppliers have O&M plans.
Yep.
They're already in place.
All right. Okay, all right, so I think we have the basis for an understanding of conditions regarding the alternative the alternative technologies. But before we move on, does anyone have any final comment they want to make? Yes, Mr. Anderson?
So that covers continuous operation, but I think also there needs to be a way so that the person can't walk away from it, or they can't say, we're not doing this anymore. And so I don't know if that would be through.
I think that would be under the general enforcement powers of the HOA, and,
But could the HOA then vote as a unit and say, we no longer want to participate in this, and then change their own bylaws?
I mean, I think what the overarching HOA would have to be the one that would, I think.
I don't know how it would work, but I want that to be thought about before.
So typically, is it conceivable, to your question, that the HOA just independently changes their documents? Yes, that's always possible. The HOA document, however, we review them. They have to incorporate by reference this comprehensive permit and recognize that the HOA is only existing because this comprehensive permit is being granted.
Just being
and they have to
recorded,
remain
right?
in compliance with it. So we'd review the HOA documents to make sure all of the conditions are addressed as needed in the HOA documents. We typically require a copy of the master deed, a sample deed as well, to make sure everything is cross-referenced. And it becomes an enforcement issue. If they try to walk away from it, it's up to us to then enforce the conditions of our permit.
But I think usually the HOA would be the one to be enforcing it at the first instance with
Yes.
with the tools that they would have. And under statute, they have a very wide and very compelling list of tools they can use to persuade people to follow the permit. Okay, Mr. Cronin first, and then.
Yeah, just gonna mention, as we talked about before, the one commercial property where this was done previously, that was placed as a deed restriction on that property, so that might be something to think about.
It's gonna go into the master deed.
Right.
So, and we're gonna enforce it. And condominium associations have extraordinary power and leaning ability, and we can sell a unit out from under the owner if they refuse to comply, and make them pay the legal fees.
Yep.
So it's extraordinary.
Yeah, that's in chapter 183C, I think it, so, yeah, I've had experience with that. Yes, Ms. Okay. Okay, I think we've come to an understanding on the alternative system, so I think, let's move on to the other parts of the Board of Health waivers.
So really, do you just want to go back to the beginning of the Board of
Well,
Health
well,
ones, or you want to focus on the setback?
All right, why don't we handle the setback? And then we'll do the rest, I promise. Which one's,
So that should be around page, 19, I think. It's 15-211.
okay. All right, minimum setback distances, let's see, 310 CMR, 15 to 11. All right, the minimum, it says property line, septic tank 20 feet, soil absorption 20 feet, private water supply, septic tank 100 feet, soil absorption of 150 feet, irrigation well 50 feet, and, all right, so they're asking for the exemption here because Plympton requires greater setbacks than Title V does. All right, so, that says, all right, okay, we talked about the hydro peer review, and essentially, as I understand it, that they want setback distances of 100 feet versus 150 feet, which is what Plympton would require. All right, it says, okay, the new comment, applicant will agree to perform the well testing recommended in the 5/2026 GEI peer review letter. Prior to construction is conditioned in the comprehensive permit. All right, GEI has some other comments. Okay, all right, anything else? All right, it says, okay, all right, okay, waivers, approval, all right, it says, we are waiving the minimum setback distances of Plympton's Title V, and to incorporate GEI recommendations into conditions of the comprehensive permit. All right, so I think we've been able to talk about that mostly at the last meeting, and I think, if we are able, if we do incorporate the testing and the conditions of GEI, I think we can resolve the issue of the setbacks. Now, does anyone, do we have the GEI recommendations handy?
They be here in this document?
Let's see, they've been a while here.
The letter?
Either May 20th.
Regularly, no.
Yeah.
Sounds about right.
Would you, yes, their May 20th letter, I have it here, Mr. Chair, if you want it.
Okay, all right, let's see. Thank you. All right. Okay, so,
It's on page 5.
all right, so. Okay. Okay, so, all right, so page 4, we have the summary and the recommendations. On page 5, we have about 4 bullets that they have, okay, all right. Now let me just, so, see, find this right down. All right, so it says the following recommendations are aimed at helping the ZBA make reasonable evaluations for decisions pertaining to the long-term sustainability and portability of private water supply for the proposed development. GI recommends the following items be incorporated into the comprehensive permit approval as conditions and are required follow-up submittals in order to further evaluate and confirm site-specific hydrogeologic conditions in compliance with applicable groundwater quality standards. Bullet 1, the applicant should identify the preferred II septic system technologies. We've already discussed that. So that's, I guess we just incorporate that into the condition by implication. All right, number 2, the applicant should subcontract with a master's licensed driller to install at least one monitoring well within the footprint of the proposed development and collect a minimum of 1 grab sample for the analytes listed in tables 11 and 12 and applicable parameters of Appendix B, detailed below, the Mass DEP private well guidelines. Specifically, the initial analytes listed in Appendix B will be for commercial land use, sand and gravel mining and washing, residential uses, fuel oil storage, lawn care, septic systems, cesspools. The advancement of the monitoring well and the collection of groundwater samples should be performed in accordance with local, state, and federal guidance. Bullet 3, the applicant should perform slug tests or other representative measurements on the monitoring well to confirm the hydraulic conductivity and anticipated yield. The proposed well screen depth is similar to the off-site wells that are already providing adequate yield, just up gradient. The slug test should be performed in conformance with local, state, federal guidance. And final bullet point, the applicant should consider performing an aquifer pump test to support the results of the slug test and better estimate the hydraulic properties of the aquifer system. All right. The recommendations for additional data collection and data analysis evaluation was recommended as a condition of approval to confirm the site-specific hydrologic conditions and comply with regulatory water quality standards. And those are the conditions, I believe. Those are the what GEI requests us to place on the comprehensive permit regarding the waiver for this particular section. So, I have no issue with any. I don't think anyone has an issue with those with attaching those conditions to the permit. So I think, if we do grant the waiver for that one, we should include the conditions which I've just read. Greg, can I ask a question? Are there any other conditions that GEI would ask us to impose on the comprehensive permit that is not included in this letter?
Well, tomorrow, I just made a note to check the first letter against their list of this
All right.
letter as well.
All right. So if we need to revisit that tomorrow, we might need to add more conditions. But for now, I think we should follow the advice of our consultant and impose these. All right. Okay. So I think we've had enough discussion on on the hydrogeologic issue that we've been able to come, that it seems like we can come to an understanding on the setbacks. So I think.
So with that, do you want to just go back to the beginning then
Yes,
of the
let's
Board
go
of
back.
Health
Let's go
section
back
and
to
just
the beginning
complete that?
And complete that and see if there's any other major issues that we need to address.
What page does that start on?
It should just be one page further up. It starts at section 15.104.
17.
Page 17, all right, so. All right, so 15.104, percolation testing. There doesn't seem to be any objection to that waiver request. So I think, and.
And they have agreed to the condition.
All right. All right, the request, all right, percolation tested will comply with Title V. All right, so no one seems to have any objection in that, with that request, with that condition. I think we can go to hydrogeologic properties, 15.107. All right. Again, they say they ask for exemption with the soil absorption system to be designed in accordance with Title V. Let's see. Private water supply wells within 150 feet of the proposed system will be shown on location. All right, and they agreed to the testing, which I've just discussed in the GEI letter. All right, so I think we can go on from there. let's see, system, sewage, flow design criteria. Again, they say that, that they will comply with Title V, and no one seems to have any, no, our experts seem to be all right with that, so let's go on from there. All right, the next one is minimum setback distances. We just talked about that, so I'll skip to depth to groundwater. And let's see, no one, and let's see, that, they're gonna, with that, they're going to defer to Title V. Let's see, the minimum step, and they have a few more, a few more, I guess, limitations they're willing to, to agree, to abide by, minimum vertical separation distance, let's see, 4 feet, 5 feet, et cetera, as it's shown on that plan, as shown on this plan. The approval's recommended, so I think we move on from that. All right, preparation of plans and specifications. I think this one goes over what's already been discussed. If it says 150 feet instead of 200 feet, which seems to be the difference between Plympton's regulations and Title V's regulations. And again, it says, GI recommendations will be incorporated, so I think that's taken care of there. All right, general construction requirements. Okay, so essentially, Schedule 40 PVC, and they're proposing Schedule 35. Again, essentially, another Title V issue. Minimum SDR 35 PVC in areas not subject to heavy or automobile or heavy truck equipment. If it is, then Schedule 40 will be used. And I don't see any, it doesn't, no one's making a comment there. Let's see, septic tanks, okay, that again, Title V, all right, so they're looking for 200% of the design flow with a minimum tank size of 1,500 gallons. 2 tank compartments.
Mr. Chair, can I just ask a question?
Yes.
I think we discussed this briefly before, but are garbage grinders proposed to be used at all?
No.
And would you agree to a prohibition then in the HOA documents?
Sure.
It's fine.
Okay.
Now, that might be one where people might get a little coy about installing the grinders in their sinks, but, there's only so much you can do. All right, what else is there? Okay, all right. Okay, soil absorption systems. Area requirements increased by, you're just talking about the garbage grinders, all right, so.
That'll be installed by the buildings.
Yeah, sorry, so we're gonna impose the condition, that no garbage grinders, be permitted in the individual units. And that's consistent with what our consultants are telling us. Okay, there's a comment here in yellow. It says, is applicant considering each individual unit to be an SF, where duplexes will share a system, will SAS be designed to serve 4 bedrooms or more? Applicant agreed to a condition on any lot with more than 1 duplex shall be limited to 2 bedrooms per unit, so how does this impact SAS design? Okay,
That goes back to the ones that have more than 1 duplex on a lot.
okay.
There are a couple that have 4, individual units
Yeah.
on a lot, and they're only going to be 2 bedrooms each. The applicant agreed to that condition.
I'm sorry, what was the condition?
That for those lots that contain more than 2 duplexes,
Okay.
the duplexes will be limited to 2 bedrooms each. So in other words, the 3-bedroom duplexes are going to be where it's only a single duplex on a lot,
Okay,
not where they're doubled up.
all right. So a three bedroom duplex is gonna be on their own single lots. They're not gonna be sharing with another unit.
No, they'd still be in a duplex, but
Yes.
they wouldn't
There are
be.
2 units, 1 building per lot.
Mhm.
Okay, so each unit, any lot with more than 1 building is, all the units are restricted to 2 bedrooms. The second
Okay.
one.
But there are some lots with, there's only one building on the lot.
And
Right.
some of those will be there's only 6 3-bedroom units in the entire project, and all the rest are 2s.
Right, and those 6 3-bedroom units are all gonna be on single lots.
One building.
Okay.
Are any of those part of the affordable? I was just curious.
They will have to be.
You will
I
have
think
to.
the subsidizing agency will require, some of them will be.
So,
The requirement is 10% of the units would have to be 3 bedrooms.
and 25% of the units in total have to be affordable.
Correct.
Okay, so I see the comments in red here, which discuss that.
Right.
Okay, construction and fill, all right, the mounted systems, again, you know, they're citing Title V, and with the caveat, so they have to obey Title V, which does, okay, which doesn't require the 5-acre limit. So, again, I think we've, are you guys planning on doing mounted systems?
No, it should be required. Groundwater table is deep.
Yeah, I didn't think there'd been much discussion about a mounted system. All right, so-
So do we need that waiver at all, or?
Just in case. But I don't think we're going to be,
I mean, the lot has more than 5 acres, so.
well, no, each lot does not, but we haven't dug holes in every square foot of property, so just,
It's better off to have it.
yeah.
All right, I don't see any objections left, and the last one was alternative systems, we already talked about that, so I think we do seem to have an understanding regarding the Board of Health regulations. That leave us.
So that leaves you with the wetland bylaw requirements,
Okay.
which starts on the next page.
Oh.
Actually, 2 pages, begins on page 24.
All right. All right, so we've got 3 pages of wet law, bylaw. All right, so we'll start with regulation section 2.
Are we on page 23?
I think 24, starting with the wetlands regulations.
Okay.
All right, so now we're in section 2. It says activities subject to regulation in this bylaw, entire section. All right, standard waiver request. It's all permits. All right, so that seems to be that seems to be a procedural matter because it's explained here in the comments that, you know, that we are the special permit granting authority for everything except for whatever the Wetlands Protection Act requires the applicant to do with COMCOM.
Right, and if I could just ask, I know you determined and JDE agreed that the isolated land subject to flooding is not a jurisdictional issue under the State Wetlands Protection Act. What about under the local bylaw?
That's a good question. Well, IVWs are protected under the local bylaw as a vegetated wetland.
Okay.
You don't have to border a water line.
Okay.
So I guess we didn't look into whether or not they would also qualify. Is there a volumetric, if you
I haven't looked at it from a volumetric standpoint, no.
Greg, any idea what the local wetland bylaw distinguish, have it separate,
You could
different,
just say any isolated wetland as well, so,
on terms of ILSF though, do they have a different definition than the state, is the question.
Right.
But does it matter if,
Well, the only question I have is if there's anything that jurisdictionally would fall under the local bylaw, then we need to make sure that the board votes on a waiver. That's all.
If it would make more sense to revisit this tomorrow night.
That's an exemption of almost every section
Right.
already.
Yeah.
I don't have any analysis, so I can't look it up. We could certainly,
Why don't we table this till tomorrow night? 'Cause it seems like there may be
Do
somebody.
that one tomorrow?
Yeah,
Okay.
There may be some unanswered questions that may need to be reviewed between now and then.
review it in the morning and send an email. My take is on it.
So then the only other one remaining to be addressed is under the zoning board's comprehensive permit rules and regulations, the plan standards and the scale of 1 inch to 40 feet.
What page is that on? think
I
that's
have
on
we have a note, it's the very last one, we have a note that the applicant was going to consider whether or not that could be removed or whether it was needed. They were proposing a scale of 1 inch equaling 60 feet, as far as the scale.
And what is our requirement?
1 inch equals 40 feet.
I don't see any issue with waiving that. That's our own requirement. Yeah, I think we talked about that at
Right.
a prior hearing, so, yeah, that's not an issue. All right, so,
My opinion was that 1 inch equals 60 is good for this plan set, not building off of this plan set. When you go to the construction set, 140 is, it's a bigger scale, it's easier to read, it's typically better for the contractor.
Less likely to make mistakes.
okay, so,
Would require multiple sheets for subjects like site layout or grading, stuff like that.
all right, so you suggest that we keep that requirement for this project?
I think so. I mean, Mr. Opachinski's a builder, so he could.
We were used to one sheet was 40 for out in the field when we're
Yep,
building.
Board of Health is agreeing too. over there.
All right, so,
You're trying to scale something with a 60 scale on the field, it's difficult to read.
all right, so,
Yes,
so what, so I think we should keep,
So-
the 40 scale.
So we'll consider that request withdrawn for the change in the scale? How's that? Okay.
All right, that's withdrawn.
We're looking at the Plympton wetland bylaw and regulations, and there's no volumetric, so this land would qualify.
It,
The ILSF.
it would or would not, I didn't hear you.
would qualify, so we will need that waiver.
You'll need the waivers, okay.
So I just want to make sure we didn't ask for that. Is this the regulation or the bylaw?
The bylaw and regulation.
No, but those are the
Those are
regulations.
regs.
So, that's what section we were in, the regs, so what section would that be, Bob, that we need to replace?
Article 2, paragraph 18.
Did you say 218? You don't have, I
Section 18.
Article 2, section.
was going to say, you don't have a waiver on here for section 18.
No, we,
We just know the bylaw.
we don't have 18, we have 16, and we go to 19.
Right.
So we need to insert 18, which is isolated, because there's no, so section 18 would be B, no, I'm sorry,
Do you want to just submit it tomorrow?
B2, ILSF. So, I mean, you can just waive a whole section as it pertains to isolated land subject to flooding and bordering land subject to flooding, which we know it's not because that's a floodplain. there's no, it just says, as opposed to the Wetlands Protection Act, which is a quarter acre foot, it just says any confined depression. So there's no, theoretically, a puddle in a parking lot would fall. Try to argue that.
Do you have any issue with it? I mean, it does, they don't define it differently, so, than the state. If you're okay with it, all right. We can update that, but yeah, they don't define it differently
Okay.
from the State Wetlands Protection Act.
Well, actually, they do in the fact that they
It
don't
is
have a
different.
volume
There's no volume.
There's no volume.
requirement, any volume, so that is different.
Oh.
It says any confined depression. So
Okay,
without
yep.
an outlet, you know, so, which again, it could be a puddle in someone's front yard,
Okay.
without vegetation, wetland vegetation.
All right, so we'll consider the waiver request amended to ask for a waiver from that section. Do you think we need them to submit a revised sheet for that, or?
It's all gonna be built into the decision, so,
All right, so as long as we know what they're asking for and why,
Yep.
and I've heard, although I didn't have it before me, but I've heard what they've wanted. So essentially, they, as I understand their request for waivers to the Plympton wetlands bylaw, they'll say, we'll comply with whatever the state requires, but to the extent that Plympton's is more onerous, we want waivers from those.
right.
So, and as I read the request for waivers here, I think that, that's what the waivers are telling, the waivers are telling me, is that they seek, waivers only to the extent that Plimpton's bylaws are more stringent than the state's Wetlands Protection Act. So,
And some of it is just procedural, too.
and, so, other than what I have before me, is there any other issues that we need to resolve regarding the wetlands bylaw, other than what's before us?
Can I ask one question? Under section 16, the waiver state that the proposed stormwater management system is more or less 49 feet from the limit of an isolated vegetated wetlands. None of that changed with the redesign, correct?
No. Basin design did not change at all.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Ms. Cronin?
I was corresponding with Brian Vasa, the conservation agent, and maybe I missed this part, but he also said that it was asked to put up a split rail fence or post with signage on the 25-foot line. Is that in the conditions?
I do remember seeing that email about that.
Yeah, it was a letter months ago and also sent to town council, Kate
Yep.
Law, and she confirmed yesterday. So we want to make sure that that's part of the decision.
And that was discussed at a prior board meeting, and my recollection was the applicant agreed to all of the conditions that the conservation agent requested.
So will that be in this list of conditions?
No, it would be, these are waivers, but it will be in the decision. It will be in the conditions of the decision.
Thank you.
But I think we've gone over, we just reviewed the the bylaw regulations, but there's actually a separate section on chapter 290, the bylaw itself, which is on page 7.
What's the section number?
290,
290.
well, the E code, yeah, 290, yeah, so it starts, our waiver starts with dash 3.
Okay. Okay, so it looks like we have two sections here.
We're asking for waivers from section 292, 4, 5, and 6. And 290-2, part of that, if you read the bylaw, discusses jurisdiction, and 290-2 would cover also that isolated land subject to flooding that we just discussed under the regulations. So we're at, we're,
2A12.
yeah, but we just asked for the whole section. We just said,
Oh, sorry, didn't realize you were there.
So, jurisdiction.
Yeah.
What section?
I mean, the prior recommendation was to sort of carve this out a little bit more, or to define it a little bit more, rather than just a blanket waiver. But again, this board acts in place of the Conservation Commission under the local bylaw. So if there's anything you want to address, we could do it through conditions of the decision. But they're not going to they're not necessarily going to have to go to the conservation. I mean, like the first section on jurisdiction, yes, the Wetlands Protection Bylaw gives the Conservation Commission jurisdiction over more resource areas than the State Act does. But we're not sending them to the Conservation Commission because you're acting in place of the Conservation Commission here.
All right. So, and what you put on the side here suggests that, that we don't grant a waiver, a full waiver, but only waivers to the extent that, that they've outlined specific issues that they're asking
Right.
for mitigation.
Right.
So if it says here, you know, if it says, the bylaw says you're not, you know, not conduct activities within 100 feet, and they're saying, well, we won't conduct any activities within 47 feet, then that would be the extent of the waiver would be for that, but for nothing else. So I think, you know, that seems to be the approach that was being advised to take here.
Right. I don't know, Greg, if you've thought of some language that would incorporate your recommendation in any way over the isolated vegetated wetlands?
I can look at that.
Okay.
I'm reviewing the plan right now, and the setback of 47 feet, I guess it depends on where you measure. Say, as I look at the limit of work for the drainage basins, we work up to the 25-foot no disturb, the local no disturb.
Mm-hmm.
But that's the bottom, that's the toe of the slope for the berm of the basin. So I think when we reference 47 feet, it's to the actual, the other side of the berm. of the basin. So I think we need to probably, that number needs to change to 25 feet. The 47, in both sections. We might have been measuring to the center of the berm, the 10-foot wide berm.
In your requested section, there's 47 feet to the closest building, 49 for stormwater management, and then 25 for grading.
25 for grading?
Yes.
Yeah, I think, well, okay, if we're talking about stormwater management, I guess, how do we define the limit of that, of the basin? The question is the toe of the slope of the berm on the wetland side. If that's the case, then we're at 25 feet.
So I'm meant to be, need to be.
So that's the limit of grading. It would be the same as the limit of grading.
All right, so are you trying to say that the grading ends at the 25 feet no touch zone?
Correct.
Okay.
So we are actually, we're respecting, with the exception of the basin, we're encroaching, we're respecting the 25-foot buffer everywhere. So I'm not sure where the language came from in that section where we're,
I guess it would be simpler to say 25, work with 25 feet.
so we are respecting the 25 foot.
So it sounds like you don't need a waiver from that. It's just the 100 feet section that you need waivers from, if I understand correctly.
What is the 100-foot section?
Just up above it, also in jurisdiction.
I guess it's, I guess we're asking for a waiver from the entire section of the line, the entire line.
Right.
But do they really need it? You know,
Well, and that goes to JDE's comment that it should be a little bit more limited.
is the 25-foot no touch zone, is there any state equivalent to that?
I mean, there are setbacks that are set forward in the Wetlands Protection Act, but I don't think there's such a thing as a no-touch zone.
Okay.
No, there's no touch zones in the Wetlands Protection Act.
But there are limitations of activities in the Wetlands Protection Act for distances, or?
It's,
No.
in jurisdiction, it's conditional and subject to conditions and whatnot, but technically, you can work right up to the edge of a wetlands, kind of strict Wetlands Protection Act.
We'd be looking for the whole waiver.
I understand that, you know,
So the fact that they're respecting a 25-foot buffer is actually good, generous. Other developments I've seen, they try to get a lot closer.
so I think, you know, I do think that they're, you know, if they're willing to provide a buffer, and they say, well, we think we can get within 25 feet, what happens if it's 20 feet or 15 feet? Can we impose conditions that, if not require 25 feet, to require no more than, say, is absolutely necessary?
I mean, you could, but they've already
We showed it on the
showed
plan.
25 feet, and they're expecting 25 feet.
We can comply with 25 feet.
All right, so essentially, it's sort of like implicit in the condition of building in conformance with the plan.
Yes.
All right. I understand. I think that's how we should leave it. All right, can we go on to 290-4? Let's see. That's just a question of fees.
Right.
And I think that the suggestion that the waiver of the fees for the affordable units seems appropriate. The rest is if they need it, then they can pay for it like everybody else. Next, notice and hearings. Again, we've already talked about that we're the special permanent granting authority, so unless there's a reason for them to go to Concom for the NOI, then we should be able to waive that because we're the ones in charge. Okay, and I think that's ditto for the next section, which again is more a procedural issue. We issue the permit, we put the conditions in place that are necessary, that we feel are necessary. And we don't issue NOIs, so, that's right, we don't issue the NOIs, right?
You would if one was required under the local bylaw, but essentially what you're saying is you're waiving that here.
Yes, I mean, I would expect that, that normal procedures be followed, they submit their application, their supporting data, and we take it and we make a decision. And perhaps we might even invite the Conservation Commission to join us for advisement on that point, since we're not the experts on that. But essentially, it's really just saying that they go before us instead of them.
Right, but this also acts as, if a notice of intent was required under the local bylaw, the comprehensive permit acts as that approval.
All right.
So there isn't going to be a separate proceeding before the Conservation Commission, or a separate proceeding before this board relative to wetlands matters.
Okay.
Unless something changes in their design as they get going, and something that was not shown on the plans previously or not included as any of the waivers, if they need to come back to change anything, they will come back to the ZBA.
But wasn't there some special thing that the Concom has, some type of procedure that they might have to go through for them?
If they need to file a notice of intent under the State Wetlands Protection
Okay.
Act, that comes from the Conservation Commission.
I see. So as long as they're within the State Wetlands Protection Act, they can function under our comprehensive permit.
Yes, you're not granting any waivers relative to the State Wetlands
Okay.
Protection Act.
All right. Okay, so I think with that understanding, we can move on. All right, so I guess we have to shift back to the next part. I think that takes care of that section. I think we go back a couple pages to back to page 24, I think. We were just talking about that, and
What one is this, Mr. Chair?
oh, page 24. There's the second set of sections about the wetland bylaw regulations.
Oh, we were just discussing those a minute ago, though, right?
Yes, and then we kind of shifted back as they're in two sections of their document.
Okay.
Yeah, Again, I think we pretty much covered most of these already in our discussion.
Yeah, the bylaw regulations mimic the bylaw pretty closely, so there shouldn't be any new information in here, really.
I don't see anything, again, when it comes to the various zones, it's the same things, it's the same considerations that are being requested. And again, they're going to be building it according to the plan, that they still have to follow the State Wetlands Protection Act. And we already talked, I saw the emails or the reports earlier about the isolated vegetated the ILSFs, that's Administrative Wetlands, and, and they don't and they appear not to qualify, so, again, that seems to be, that no longer seems to be an issue. So, I don't see any, most of these seem to be procedural, so I don't see any issue with the procedural, again, and I think that our discussion about section 16 and 18, we've already covered that, and, let's see, buffer, again, and 19 buffer zones. The only thing I would, when it comes to consultant fees, is there any likelihood that there's going to be need for further consulting in this issue beyond what Greg provides?
Well, the consultant fee in that context would be payment of a consultant fee to advise the Conservation Commission. So again, since they don't go to the Conservation Commission, everything here has been provided through either JDE or GEI to you.
Okay. All right. Okay, so I think that answers that question. All right, so the final one says section 27, stormwater management standards. They say that they're going to comply with the state standards, that JD's review the calculations, and they're obviously, they've submitted their stormwater management plan. Well, I'm not sure which revision this is, but I'm sure that they've revised it several times, and they have to, they're but, the extent that that plan, governs their activities, it's been reviewed, the calculation's been checked, so I would suggest that there's no issue here. With any of the waiver, with that or any other waiver requests from that section of the wetlands protection bylaw. So, all right, so I think that pretty much covers their waiver requests, except for, the only thing I can think of that's still outstanding is anything from the fire, that the fire chief wishes to talk about. I think that's somewhere in here that yeah, that we would expect tomorrow night to, a final opportunity for any input from the fire chief, or her designee, regarding the waivers that are particularly pertinent to them.
The only waiver relating to fire protection is under the subdivision regs. There's a section that discusses cisterns, and we had a meeting with the fire captain, fire chief,
And the cisterns
2 months ago,
yeah.
and we agreed to the 2 cisterns, 25,000 gallons each. We agreed as to the locations. And I think we asked for a waiver because the separation, there's some language in the bylaw, what section, what page is that?
15 and 16.
Page 15. So I'm not sure, and that's the only fire protection section I'm aware of, so I'm not sure, they may have some input or may have some suggested
Since the new
conditions in the permit.
plans.
Yes.
They may not relate to waivers.
Right.
All right, so, yes, well,
But here's the problem, if you don't get that information from the fire department before you close the public hearing,
then, yes.
you
then-
don't get that input.
Yes.
So
and
they need to come tomorrow?
Yes, so so I guess one of us will have to ask them to come.
Or we do our best to create conditions that we think would address any concerns they might have.
Yes. All right, so that's one thing we'll have to be on the agenda for tomorrow night. Let's see, yes, Mr. Bloomquist?
Yes, sir. I was talking to Captain Issues minutes ago. He's at Logan Airport right now. I mentioned him tomorrow's the last day.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
My apologies. I was just talking to the captain, Tuesday.
Yes,
He's at Logan Airport right now. I mentioned to him that tomorrow's the last day,
yes.
and I'll be talking to him later on today.
Yes, if you could advise him, if he could come tomorrow night, I'd really appreciate it.
I will.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, so All right, we've gone through the whole waiver list that's being requested. You know, again, we may have more conditions tomorrow night based on what the captain tells us. However, I think we're in a good position tomorrow. We will be able to make a final vote on whether to grant the comprehensive permit and the conditions that will be imposed, and those are the things we'll be doing tomorrow night, unless there's anything else that needs to be done that I haven't mentioned.
Could I ask them, Mr. Chair, do you want to actually review a draft of the decision before you vote on it?
We have something ready for us?
Not with everything incorporated tonight, by tomorrow, no. But I could certainly have something ready in another week.
So you said we have to vote tomorrow night?
No,
Oh,
you
okay.
don't have to vote tomorrow night. You just have to close the public hearing tomorrow night.
We could do that, but wouldn't that draft decision become part of the public record?
Yeah, it does.
It's just,
But you see, once you vote, there's only 14 days to get this decision pulled together. And there are conditions. You have 40 days to decide, to make up your mind. But once you vote, I've only got 14 days to file that decision with the clerk. And the comprehensive permit decision is going to contain more conditions than just a few things that we've mentioned tonight.
Okay.
There are going to be things, you know, about pre-construction meetings and as-built plans, et cetera.
All right. But tomorrow night, we have to close the public hearing, and we have 40 days thereafter to issue a decision, then you have 14 days to file with the town clerk.
Right.
All right, so I suppose it would make sense to start reading what we're finally going to decide as soon as possible. Does anyone else have a contrary opinion?
I mean, you could vote on the waivers if you want to take a formal vote on the waivers.
I prefer to do that tomorrow night.
Okay.
All right, so that's what we'll do. So that's what we'll do. The agenda will be to hear any comments from the fire chief, to take final votes on the waivers, to close the public hearing, and to review the draft of the decision which town council will prepare for us.
I won't have a draft for you for tomorrow night, though.
that's what you're saying.
That's what I'm saying. I've got to pull this all together.
Oh, so I'm sorry. I think I misunderstood. So
What I imagine you're going to do tomorrow is tie up all the loose ends. So you'll hear from the fire department, vote on the waivers, and if there's anything else that, you know, needs to be addressed, would be addressed tomorrow. Then what I would expect is that you'd schedule another meeting to review a draft decision.
okay. All right, now I understand. All right.
And that would be a public hearing too.
It's a public meeting,
Meeting,
but the public hearing is closed.
So they won't be able to talk or anything?
Correct.
Okay.
All right, so yeah, that sounds like the agenda for tomorrow night. So, if that, unless there's anything else, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I second.
All right, all in favor? All right. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you.
We'll see you.